Good morning from New York. Well, I'd like to thank Big Lennox again. Very dependable. And I'd like to thank Spectrum. Pretty dependable. Internet service. And Nestle. Nestle chocolate. And all the people involved in growing cacao and getting it to market and figuring out how to put it on the market. Well, thank you. Hard work. Probably I wouldn't be smart enough to do any of those things. But somehow I'm still here. You know, there we go. Today's subject, inner mind communication. Who should practice it? When, how, and with what outside help? And get that right. Practice. Left out the word practice. Wow. Aging brain. I got to get some replacements. Could it be you? I hope so. Better. Anyway, I'm a mystic. I shared that before, and but I'm a rational mystic. Um, Things happen that I could not explain, and my brain or something gave me this process. So, I guess I've got the football, so I better run for it. Hopefully, in the right direction. Anyway, you should practice it. Well, if you don't want to practice it, you might be one of those who shouldn't be practicing it. Maybe it's too much for you, and maybe with some help, you know be better. Should just any psychologist, trained therapist do it? Not without practicing it. Practice is extremely important. This kind of thing, which is similar to the yoga and many other things. Practice is just Zen. It's just things. If you don't practice it, you don't fully grasp it, and you don't have the sensitivity with it, the artfulness with it that you need. Um, Push come to shove. Um, well, without personal practice, you're probably not even going to respect the theory deal properly. But yeah, I suppose, as I say, push come to shove, uh, maybe pushes the boundaries, and maybe you know, as a professional therapist of any kind, you might be able to dabble in it, help somebody, without practice, and those with practice you're much more likely to be qualified. You need to understand the theory and the approach, what it's used for. And what it might, and actually, someone who has a psychological degree in psychology, um, especially psychiatry or neurology, might be able to see the parts of the different 6 parts of this distribution of inter-mind communication, and understand the benefits of each one and the limitations of each one. That is a real plus. Is it a self-help thing? Well, if that's all you got, there's a barrier there that, if you're doing it to comfort yourself, pretty safe. Because if it doesn't work for you, it discomforts you too much, you're not going to do it. So there's a guardrail there, which is nice. Maybe a better guardrail than a lot of things. But don't go hog wild with any particular one of the parts of the practice. There are side effects to meditating too much. But, they don't get carried away. You can drink too much water, but the likelihood that you're going to drink too much water is pretty slim. So, everything in moderation, as they say. Get professional help if you can afford it. That would be a good thing. Someone who's studied it on their own, like me, and had a lot of experience with it. Well, that might be your second best choice. Without the thorough education. However, do be careful. I've met people that have been taught what to think, but not how to think. They definitely shouldn't be doing that for anybody. Maybe not even themselves. Give reasons for that maybe later, but I'm trying not to be insulting. However, fully degreed psychologists that I've talked to don't get it. And they believe in bizarre things like Reiki. It's been totally discredited. And disbelief in modern primal therapy, whole hog, which is not correct either. I suggest that you check out The Primal Mind by Peter Pranzos and a fabulous writer, Bruce Wilson, medical science writer, to give a full defense of Arthur Janow's primal therapy approach. So you have to be careful. There are people who only think, like you see in an AI. They're just grabbing biases as well as knowledge and lump it together. That's a problem. Coming up with conclusions based on authority, which can be very wrong at times. There are doctors who, like one doctor who pushed vitamin C overly, like claims for it that, just with testing, it just didn't prove out. You got cancer, I wouldn't count on orange juice saving you. So, who's the best practitioner of all? Probably a scientist who knows how to think and who's practiced this, studied its aspects. That might be a physicist. They have very high IQs. So I think that's important. You can say it's not important, but I wouldn't follow a dummy around the block. Put it that way. So, and I wouldn't follow me around the block either some days. So, yeah, you're gonna take this and go with it, and okay. If you're going to start practicing it, if you practice it a bit, listen a while, you ask questions, and you think. If you find any challenges to it, go on YouTube, on the internet. Find any challenges to it, to the approach, then you take a look at that perspective as well. I like to put perspectives, a multitude of perspectives on life and everything else at the end of these descriptions. I'm I'm a big fan of that. I can remember how I got turned off to meth. You know, I just wasn't content with being given a formula and just accepting it because it quote unquote works. I want to know why it worked. So, I would like to question it and what is the problem? And then when I solve the problem, then I would go back and see why the equation worked. And that was really fun. And when they pushed and and not giving time for that, it turned me off as a kid. It just really turned me off. And the lack of humility in teachers can be a Neil deGrasse Tyson, a great teacher, Michio Kaku, a great teacher. They're both physicists. They are humble. They have, they're not there to amass huge amounts of wealth and treat you like the creatures on the lower end of the food chain. And this is with taking anything too far, like capitalism. You can go too far with that. You have to tweak that sucker. It was a French word I was about. You got to tweak it. Some valid points to it. And a lot of times you have to add systems together to get something that actually works, to maximum level. I don't know of any country that doesn't have both socialist and capitalist tendencies. Kind of like introvert, extrovert. You need a little of each, don't you? Been discussed ad nauseum, probably. No, don't take things to extremes. Make sure that the person you're getting help from is humble. These are people who truly respect mystery. That's why I say, hey, the greatest mystics are scientists. How to treat the things you don't understand. The mystic that isn't taking the humble science approach. Just, what do they do? It's, oh, wow. That isn't going to get you anywhere. It's a rush. a dopamine rush, perhaps. But come on, there's a long time practice. Be a scientist. Be a scientist. Don't believe in Goofy's conspiracy theories. Who should not be practicing this on anybody? Perhaps not even on themselves. People who believe in conspiracy theories. You know, the whole idea, you know, that absolutist kind of narrow thinking that, oh, pharmaceutical companies are just out to, their researchers and all, they're just out to make a buck. Well, they need to make a buck in order to survive, number one. Number two, yeah, they might take advantage of people a bit if they're too much of a monopoly. If they can just get away with it. Where we need a little government in there. But these are people. And although capital, the corporate approach can be a little too sociopathic, maybe a lot in some cases too sociopathic, like in pushing harmful things like tobacco and etc. Don't want to offend any of the people on the far left or right. They get real upset. Sometimes you have to offend people. Sometimes. Can't help it. Yeah, and some scientists have been killed. They couldn't help it. But they made a great sacrifice for the world. They recorded their stuff. So I hope one day this practice will be studied thoroughly, all of the possible uses of it and other forms of distributions of it created. I'm looking forward to that time. It has a lot of abilities built in. I had some successful primal therapy. Not the best, but yeah, it did some major changes for me. It worked very well and it helped me a lot. And I can get those with just my personal practice. When is it that you shouldn't practice it? When you feel like if you're working with somebody and they're trying to train you in it and they're helping you through sessions, if you feel that they are not empathic, feeling empathy, stop. That's not a good way to do this practice. I can remember, and again, from experience, I was dealing with some of the negatives. This is not an approach that goes after pain or the disease necessarily. It can be used in therapy, but it's not particularly aimed at curing any disease, although it can be cured. Probably better than some of the things out there currently. But you have to draw a line. And its approach is for your general health and your ongoing health. And it can be very good for you. Maybe taking a multivitamin. Older people, could be kind of useful. Sometimes, though, you can just have, a release of expensive vitamins. doesn't get absorbed, because you need it. Yeah, and some vitamins you have to be careful eating. Always ask your physician before you do anything, meditation, anything. It's at least get an educated view. Somebody who's actually been to college, and that wouldn't include me, but ask him about it. And is this right for me? Question, question, question. And for questioners and for people who are humble scientists, this is a good thing. Very positive and very helpful. And yeah, it is something you can do on your own. That lowers the cost, responsibility on it. But you might have to start off with a therapist, but not just anyone. They can get second opinion. And if they can't think, if they're believers in conspiracy theories, if they use terms that they cannot define, and don't let them help you, because they might be hurting you. If someone is helping you with training and you're not comfortable with that person, don't do it. Don't do it. Find somebody who's been trained and experienced it, who you feel comfortable with. You might not like me. Well, don't be trained by me. How can you be trained by me if I'm the only one? Well, the people who worked on this with me, they kind of dropped off here and there, clinging to religion. And I didn't. So there's, what do you do? Well, find a friend and do some self-practice. Check with your physician and just any therapist you can afford that person thinks. And be cautious. Move forward. You can get there. So how did I get there? Yeah, same old. I had to do the practice myself and by myself. Sometimes it's better to do the practice by yourself. It's a win to practice. Sometimes it's better to do the practice by yourself because in the course of it, since you're speaking out loud to get the best results, in this inner imagination, there are some things that you should never tell anybody because the society is sick. Yeah, just not advanced enough or whatever, not safe to share with. You're looking at a very punishing world society who tries to take you from the final end of the process that is healthy here in this IMC philosophy. And that's wrong. And it's harmful. And you can't trust people who think that punishing people is the way to go to make better human beings, or more functional, happy human beings. That is not the way. That's the way to get people to be brainwashed into a religion, if that's what you were using. I'm better now. I've got Jesus, or I've got Buddha, or, it's really, the evidence has to be there. Yeah. And you have to, you need to see how people function under pressure. That's hard to do. But it's important to make a judgment in terms of personal growth. Well, how does that person act or feel about a given situation, and that could be done with, you know, guided meditations and other sorts of things. You can, kind of get a sense of how people would respond under pressure. Yeah. So I think I've made that point. Neil deGrasse Tyson or Michio Kaku are a smarter guy than me. No, you haven't. If you hear this, then jump in with a comment then. But, when to practice and how much to practice. What's easier and more and safer to begin with, and what's a little more complex and impacting. Well, a lot of these 6 practices, they can have a lighter. It will be lighter to do one of them than to do all of them together in a session. The impact on the symbolic defenses you have against feeling too much anxiety, yeah, is greater if you're doing all of them, in a single session of an hour. It's going to have to be greater if you're probing each one. Well, that might be an exception if the rule if you don't continue to do it. Just kind of finding out which of the practices you feel helps comfort you. The safeguard in this is that you are trying to comfort yourself. Some people, they just get carried away. They're just eager to make progress. I remember I wanted to feel all my trauma and, come out this great, healthy human being, rising from the doldrums of the ordinary. So I went down, and there's these safeguards within the brain, it's amazing. But I went down and was going to push myself to feel the absolute worst things that I might feel I need to deal with. Laid down on an old mattress, not getting up from here until, like in the Buddha myth, not getting up from here until I've got it, So I was laying there, and the brain, it's still roaming, checking your decisions. What's going on? Its decisions, actually. So I'm laying there, and it's kind of like this is not like the things that happened. They were different. But the thought would rise: what if there were rats in this old mattress? No, this is very unlikely. They had no evidence of rats in the apartment. As Neil was saying, no evidence of rats. There's probably no bear in the cave. That was a goofy thing to say. Well, its argument was involved a bear in the cave. But you pretty well rest assured there's no bear in the cave when you take all the factors involved that you can study outside the cave. And so, yeah, no evidence of rats. So, of course, I came back to that thought with another thought that says, this is just a defense mechanism. I'm gonna keep going. And then the brain just took over completely. So we're not doing that, you dummy. That's too much. So I found myself at the top of the stairs, and I'm not sure exactly how I even got there. It was just such an automatic thing. And I was at the top of the stairs looking down at the mattress. Kind of like people leaving their body, when it's horrible things get their body. You know, well, imagine you're outside of your body seems like it's kind of a symbolic and generalized escape from the whole thing. Yeah, it's like the impact's too much, so get some distance there. Yeah, uh-huh. I think that has a lot to do with triggering out of body experiences. There are other ways of doing it. That I think is one way. And NDEs, I think, are subject to that. Could be a symptom of that. So anyhow, um, so there's an example, you know. And that's how, you know, really, really safe it is. Practice. It really is safe. I'm just being cautious, just in case, for out of empathy for any single individual in any circumstance that might have a negative experience. You know, why not be super cautious? Scientists are, and not quick to draw a conclusion. Like the introvert. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong. Always correct me if I'm wrong. And you know, this tired old brain can make a lot of mistakes. But I've dealt with this for like over 40 years. Helped people, worked with other people on it for a while when it's really just formed. It's pretty good stuff. Never any negative experiences, although one approach, which is one of the practices, but it aims, it's not really one of the practices because these practices are not about trying to purposely go to traumas. They'll come up on their own when you feel safe enough, and yeah, when the safety is there, then these things can rise up. If there's pressure from objective, passionate, and creative thinking, not feelings. Um, when you have that kind of pressure, that's quite that'll do it. That's why if you do all of the practices, in a short period of time, it's going to have much bigger impact. You can do one or more, but less than the whole package is going to be a little less impacting. Uh, so what is this? Back to my point there, the whole mind drifts. But point of what's it? Well, meditation, mindfulness is very much. Oh, I didn't finish that other thought. Uh, yeah, the practice of doing your own guided meditation. Well, it's not the same as what Ruth Carter Stapleton did, which was aimed at trauma. Because we don't aim it at trauma, we aim it at comfort. Very big difference. But it's similar in some ways. So, one lady at one church She was one of the bosses. Uh, you could feel the aces around you. She was out there, but yeah, you can sense these things. Anyway, she she said that that was a terrible idea. That it had been tried and there was all these problems. So that's one report. And again, INC approaches, this distribution, it's not aimed at trauma. It's aimed at your general health and can help you deal with trauma. Traumas might, you might feel the original need and whatever in a safe enough condition, and that can be healing. Yeah, sure. Just like enough exercise can prevent a lot of diseases, and yeah, and mindfulness can be very healthy. Um, so now that I've finished that, then I can move on to the pigment that I began before that. Not a good speaker, am I? Probably some ACEs reasons for that. I think there is. Anyway, going to the later direction of thought that I was having. The safest things, well, mindfulness can be helpful. That's generally pretty safe. Um, just learning to focus and calm down. That aspect of that practice, very safe. Just meditation. Find the form of meditation that you're comfortable with. Not a bad idea. And it's similar to practice here in IMC, this distribution, intermind communication. All right. The other is what a pair of psychoanalysts with a different spelling to the Janoffs, I believe it was. They did something called Big Little Technique, which is similar to the kid counselor technique in IMC. Okay, that's pretty safe. That's pretty safe. And it's been used on people who are very, 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 very ill. Um, I don't want to use blanket terms, but supposedly they had good results with people of the level of disturbance that they would call psychotic. Anyway, so that's pretty safe. Little, maybe you can create guided meditations for yourself if you're aimed at comfort, and it can be okay. Now, where you're doing the practice between the inner caregiver and yourself, there is a problem with that. That is much more apt to trigger feelings of a deep range, but it's still fairly safe. Now, unsafe if the breathing approach, breathing in deep and out, in and out with feeling. Like if you do this a little of that, again, it's all relative. But if you do just a little bit of that, occasionally, it's not going to be a problem. If you do a lot of it, it can trigger too much. Too much feeling. And too much, it can take you to the infant mind and trigger traumatic, important events. So you see, trauma will try to take center stage when you feel safe enough. It also can be too early. Not resolving things in your current life, and then in your more kid and counselor level life, and mastering your imagination. Not dealing enough with that and with your social significant other and self approach. Not dealing with that first. There may not be, for some people, there may not be, depends on how damaged you are. And everybody's damaged. This world is not friendly. Not to our species, not to ourselves. Yeah, not altogether friendly. Ask Neil. Anyway, did you ask Neil about any of this? He probably have a good answer. Yeah, Michio too. Anyway, but yeah, doing all three of those things. Well, another one that's been helpful to people that is the Pentecostal deal. It depends on, if it's taking you deeply into delusion, that may not be unsafe if you're in a group that supports your delusion and it doesn't interfere with the rest of your life. Like this, the speaking in tongues phenomena. That can be somewhat helpful or relieving of stress. And in a controlled, rational way, that's something used in IMC. But I would not, when you put all three of those together, it's stronger. And remember, trauma is going to try to take center stage. And if you're probing around in what I call the infant mind, especially to exclusion of the other practices, that's where doing all the practices in some conditions and situations is actually healthier. Definitely than overdoing it. Any one of these things, or plunging into the more difficult things right away. Hold on, just that. So, a lot of these things need to be tested very carefully. Like with everything, but it's very safe for me. It's very safe because you're trying to cook yourself. So again, take that into account. You can drink too much water, and you should know that you can drink too much water. The likelihood of your doing it is very small. You need some careful mathematics if you apply here, but pretty safe practice even to do all on your own because of the internal safeguards your brain and your attempts to comfort rather than trying to find something scary. it makes it pretty safe, the whole package. But I want you to be thoroughly safe just in case you have some unusual situation cause you a problem. So take my criticisms and my positives both with a grain of salt. Okay. The way you approach new stuff, alrighty. Use your brain, not just there to keep your ears warm. A lot of blood has to flow through the brain as well. I'm making that jump, and it could be completely wrong. The blood is coming from the heart, so it could be warming your ears. I don't know, but yeah, your brain needs to be used. That's what I was trying to say. Anyhow, um, yeah, using all three of those techniques, the focus and the play and the expression, can be very potent. If you're doing that to exclusion of the other, and if you don't have enough stability, ego strength, professionals might call it that, regarding your social affairs and your general emotional state, that could be a problem. So, yeah, you can learn about this and train up. If you're an average individual, you can do the whole package probably. And it might be a better experience if you had help from someone who's been there and someone who understands the principles. It doesn't take long to get the basic theory. And I just wanted to include all of this just to make sure that this process is not abused. But it's a spiritual process, and put it this way: one form or another, all of these techniques I'm talking about have been used in religion and otherwise for thousands of years with hardly any negative effects and mostly positive. So uh, take that into account. But nowadays, we can be more protective of ourselves. If you got time and money, then do it. It's all a matter of situation and internal and external. Yeah. Hmm. Is this a process for those who have serious mental conditions, like PTSD or extreme ACEs? Well, depends. Get some professional advice. And if you don't have the money to get continued care and so on, remember the golden rule approach. They are not going the negative. You go up to the positive. Well, and you're trying to comfort yourself, different perspectives and experiences. And that's your your safety practice. And with that, well, probably safe as drinking water. But if you do have these serious conditions, please be careful and check with people who consider themselves experts by going to college. Check whether they can think, or whether they're just regurgitating things they've been told. And make sure that they don't have unsupportable, bizarre kinds of statements that they're given to you. Like this one fellow that this one guy who I talked to kept talking about energies, didn't explain what in the heck they are, what he was referring to. Criticized his brother, who had obviously criticized his use of the word energies. Who was a physicist. Yes. So his physicist brother was giving him a critique about him using the word energies, which I think it says something. The guy's not thinking, and he believed in Reiki kind of approach. That he's things that are disproven. You look up something and it's talking like, oh, this is the best thing in the world. Put in the same name for the thing and put debunked afterwards. Maybe somebody's taken the time to unravel that and get rid of that notion. As far as aliens have landed and all of these things, ancient aliens, that's been debunked. Check it out. Don't just follow along. Nobody. There is no perfect guru. Yeah, none. That's the world we live in. Nobody's perfect. Don't trust anybody totally. That trust grows gradually. Yeah. This is an important movement, in my opinion, which needs to be understood as quickly as possible around the world. And is it alone in pushing these kinds of understandings? No. There are many scientists who could inform the world of better routes to take than destructive ones there on. Remember, these countries go into war and so depend on people standing up against violence and problems and approaches of their leaders. Once there was a gathering of people who wanted peace and people who were comparing the benefits in either war or peace. And those for peace realized you might have to give your life for peace, just as you might have to give your life for war. You got to measure these things out and be cautious and certain. We need more diplomacy in the world, really heartfelt connections, and you find his leaders coming together, and they can be friendly, and then they're also controlled by the people and their attitudes of their own people. What it takes to stay in power, to have a good picture of themselves back home. So they get together and they talk, and they can be so much more kind and friendly. I think better than just auditory communications with people. It would be Zoom, at least you can see the person's face. And that makes it more human, sensitive. When possible, when there isn't a rampaging disease going on, try in person. Very important. And remember to listen to many perspectives and not just one. And do try to understand this process and experiment a little on your own. It's probably pretty safe, unless you have a serious mental condition. When you can present that to your therapist and say if they want to use some of these approaches, they may already be using a number of them. And okay, go that route. So, but the importance of spreading this word and causing people to think and expressing the philosophy of intermind communication that could save the human race. So do that. For sure. Do that for sure. As I like to say at the end of my presentations, gosh knows, the idea of monetization, even to the point of paying anything for my time or whatever, very remote with this sort of presentation. And do better with if I were an expert on some field. If I did kitty and doggy pictures, you never know. I'm in worse shape than the clergy at some local church that doesn't go online, doesn't try to bilk people. Yeah, church mouse. Or is it church mouse? Yeah. A lot of scientists report as church mice. But it happened. Yeah. Crazy world out there. Oh. Do support Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse Tyson, the great neurologists and so on out there. Try to make a donation or something. Buy their books if you can afford them. I can't afford to help hardly anybody, but trying to get to a position where I can. Anyway, yeah, back to the point. Ending it with. I hope you benefited somewhat from these thoughts. Better than that, these thoughts have stirred your own. Be sure to include negative and positive comments, comical ones. Make fun of me. I would think that would be quite funny. So you can feel safe. Yeah. You make fun of this video, for sure. Not quality stuff, is it? Yeah, go ahead. And just any comments would be nice. If you want to subscribe, let more people hear the message. Start your own YouTube. This is open source. try to present it accurately. Um, if you're a professional, do your own distribution of intertwined communication. And I'm not going to help be able to do that. Anyway, I don't know why, but yeah, for sure. Anyway, just saying goodbye is so hard to say goodbye. Feel you. Feel you. Have serious problems. Hope some advice along the way here. Great love to you. Great compassion. And all the best wishes for this day after Christmas. Yeah. Which is how you're feeling right now, right? You getting tired, bored. Anyway, I love to use the word namaste at the end. It means all that's good, all the love flow, all the potential good, and the recognition of the great mind and brain of every human being in the world, and the intelligence in the world itself, which we're all a part of. That perspective, which you also, everybody has, in some form, is expressed in Namaste. It is an honoring of that perspective. From that perspective, perspective that opens up the beauty of life itself. So that within me would like to honor that in you. Namaste. Have a good day.